So I just got back from a local convention here in the Seattle area called Game On Con that's been going on I think for a couple of years. It was actually my first time going, and it's a primarily wargaming convention. But I went for 3 of the 4 days that it was running. It was Thursday through Sunday, and I went Thursday, Saturday, Sunday. It's primarily focused on war games, but they also have a whole room dedicated to like Euro games and board games and other stuff. They had designers there showing off stuff that is going to be coming out soon or still in development, which is really cool. They did an X-Wing tournament. There's about 150 people there. It was in one of the suburbs of Seattle at a hotel, and I went with a friend, and it was a lot of fun. So before I get into anything about this video, I just wanted to say thank you to the people who put it on, including Jeff Newell, who also lives here in Seattle, who's sort of the guy who created it. It is a really fun event. I'm definitely going to go next year, and I'm definitely going to keep my eye on sort of the Northwest con scene. I know there's some up in Canada and British Columbia that I'm definitely interested in going to. But it was just really fun. It was really fun to like hang out with people and meet new people and play games that I've only played in sort of my game groups with people who I'd never met before, who are older than me or younger than me, and just kind of like, you know, get a different type of person, hang out with a different type of person while playing these games. I played a lot of stuff. I brought probably 3 times as many games as I actually played. But just in case, you know, but it was a lot of fun. So I wanted to talk a little bit about what I did, what I experienced, some new pickups that I got from the con. It wouldn't be a good, successful con experience without a swap meet or flea market, and they had one there. They had people who brought stuff to sell. There's some cool, good deals, actually. There's a version of Here I Stand that was basically brand new for like $40, and you know, someone was selling Twilight Imperium and the entire Race for the Galaxy like expansion set along with the base game for really good prices. So I picked through there and I found some good stuff, but I'll talk about that a little later. First, I wanted to talk about what I played there. We had an absolutely epic game of Sword of Rome on Saturday that took most of the day. It was the second time I played it, and I was playing the Greeks, and I was playing it with my friend and 3 others who I'd never met, and they... one of them was actually a Sword of Rome veteran, and it's the first time I played the game with 5 players, which meant that there was a 5th Carthaginian player, which was really cool. It kind of changes the rules of the game and sort of the asymmetry of the player powers, but it was really epic, and it came down. I was out of it pretty early because everyone decided to team up on me. Hey, that's no surprise. But it came down to a couple major battles on the last turn of the game, and Rome ended up winning very narrowly over the Samnite Etruscan player, which was really interesting. And Carthage, after having just a horrible start, actually came back and was competitive right at the end as well. So I'm really looking forward to playing that game again, and it really cements itself to me as just like one of the best CDGs, card-driven games out there. I also played... what else did I play while I was out there? On Thursday, I got a chance to play Imperial Assault with some folks, teach them the game. They were going to be starting a campaign, so I walked them through the intro scenario. And then I got a chance to play a game that I picked up last week or 2 weeks ago, I would say, that I had never heard of, and I had seen it sitting on on the shelf of my local game store for a long time. And that game is this game here. It's called Polis: Fight for the Hegemony. And this is a really interesting game. I kind of picked it up on a whim. I looked it up a little bit online, and this game is really fascinating. It's basically about the Peloponnesian War between Athens and Sparta, but it is not a war game. It is a resource management game that plays almost like a Euro, but isn't actually a Euro. It's the way I was describing it to people was it is a Euro game. It's Euro game mechanics applied to war game thinking, which is very rare that you find something like that. I think the closest thing I could compare to Polis would be A Few Acres of Snow. So if you played A Few Acres of Snow, it's not card driven like A Few Acres of Snow, but it's got the same type of stuff behind it: resource gathering, positional placement. Conflict is kind of an abstracted element of the game, or combat, I should say. But it's a very interesting game, and it's beautiful. The production, I believe this is the 2nd edition from Mercury Games, the one I have. but the production quality is just amazing, and it got me thinking in a way that few games have been able to recently. So I got a chance to play it twice, once on Thursday and then once on Sunday. And it played out differently both times. I played Athens both times because both sides kind of have different starting positions that favor an opening strategy one way versus the other. So I wanted to kind of get a handle on the game. It's a very interesting game. I'm going to have actually more about it. I'm going to do a video on it. But if you are curious and if you liked A Few Acres of Snow, I would highly recommend trying to find a way to play Polis Fight for the Hegemony. It is a really fascinating game. In addition to that, there was a bunch of stuff going on. There was someone playing Atlantic Wall D-Day at Falaise the entire time, which was just an insane setup. They had the giant maps across like 3 tables, plus the beach landings map. There were 2 guys who were playing it in the back, so that was really cool. I got a chance to play Labyrinth: The War on Terror, which is a game I really love, with someone who had never played it to completion before, so I was kind of helping him learn the game. So that was also really fun. I ended up winning by the narrowest of margins at the very end, even though he was basically killing me the entire game. I got a chance to meet some YouTubers while I was there who do sort of war game stuff on their channels, which was awesome. I got a chance to meet Kevin, also known as Hipshot, who does a lot of war game stuff, a lot of older war game stuff. He was the guy who did the crazy Case Blue Guderian's Blitzkrieg 2 like year-long playthrough from OCS that MMP publishes. So he was there, got a chance to meet him. That was really fun. And I also got a chance to meet Mamie from Fushigi TV, the other YouTube channel that covers war games that's based here in Seattle, I guess. She was there with Mark Moksicki, sorry if I mispronounced that, who was the designer of Red Winter, and they were doing demos of Red Winter together with people. I hadn't met her in person before, and we talked a little bit, and it was really cool to meet her, so if you're watching this, hey. What else happened there this weekend? So yeah, like I mentioned, I picked up a couple of new games. The first of which was something that I wasn't even really looking for per se, but then I decided I had to have it once I saw it. And that one is Men of Iron from Richard Berg's Men of Iron series. This is actually the first game in the Men of Iron series, and I've never actually seen this in person before. The cover art like struck me as something that I needed to pick up, but also because I'm a huge fan of medieval warfare in terms of the type of warfare, the sort of legacy that medieval warfare kind of has in fantasy and stuff like that. Knights, archers, mounted men-at-arms, suits of armor, that kind of thing. And so Men of Iron is the first volume. It came out in 2005, so that makes it, 10 years old, 10-year-old game. But it was unpunched, first of all. So it was basically brand new, had never been played before. And it was, a pretty good deal. So I decided to pick it up. And I'm reading through the rules right now. And I'm really excited to get into it. The other 2 games in the series are Infidel, which came out a couple years ago. It's out of print. I'm waiting on a reprint of that one. And Blood and Roses, which came out last year, which are all sort of explorations on medieval warfare. So Men of Iron comes with 6 different battles. The counters are half-inch counters, and there's a ton of them that I'm going to have to punch, but I thought it was a pretty good find, so I'm excited to play it and really check it out. I do own a lot of the By the Edge of the Sword system games from France, from Frederick Bay. And those are really fun. They just take a long time to play. And I played one head-to-head recently, and it took a long time. And I weirdly found them more interesting to play solo, but I would like to give them more head-to-head plays to really get a feel for it. But in the meantime, Men of Iron kind of appealed to me, so that's why I picked it up. The other game I picked up at the convention was Fading Glory, which is the Napoleonics 20 system originally from Victory Point Games. I picked this up because I'm not a fan of the Napoleonic era in general, but I've heard so much about this system that I was like, all right, I'm just going to bite the bullet and do it. And there's 4 battles in there, and they call it Napoleonics 20 because it typically plays with 20 counters or less, so it's very low counter density. And the system is supposed to be really playable, so I will eventually at some point get that to the table and give it a try. So those are my 2 big pickups from the convention, so if you have any thoughts about those games, if you've played them or anything like that, I'd love to hear what you have to say, just because these are 2 games that I've had on the back of my mind for a while and that I decided to just kind of take a chance on. So we'll see what happens there. And finally, the last thing I wanted to say was on Thursday night, we actually got a game of FIFA 1429 in. It's the second time I've played it now. You may remember the last video I did was an unboxing of FIFA. It is just so much fun. So much fun. The game basically on the final turn, my neighbor next to me, or the player next to me, not geographically on the map next to me, we basically were two of the more powerful families in the game, and so we struck a deal when it came time to vote for the Pope and the King, which just happened to come around in the same turn. So I told him, listen, you vote for me for Pope, I'll vote for you for King. That will solidify the points that we need to win. But the votes around the table for that were not guaranteed, and what ended up happening was that there was a player who was kind of out of the game. He wasn't really contending for the lead, and he told our opposition that he would vote for them to cancel out the King title being awarded. And it turned out that when we revealed the vote tiles, he had betrayed them and voted for us. So we ended up winning with 4 points at the end of that round through some dramatic vote fixing or betrayal, I guess you could say. But FIFA 1429, both times I've played it, has just been an absolute blast. And I think even this early, it's going to be a very strong contender for my favorite game of 2015 when I get around to that video next year. Which takes me to my last point, and that is the next video you will probably see on this channel will be favorite games of 2014. I've got them all. I've got the list figured out. I just need to sit down and kind of shoot it on camera. But yeah, so hopefully look forward to that before February gets too far along. I know last year we did it in March, which was maybe a little too far after the new year. So I'm trying to get it out before people forget about it or don't really care anymore. But there were some good games in 2014 and stuff that I think you'll find the list is going to be a wide spectrum of stuff. There's a nice mix of stuff. If you're not a fan of war games, and I know that I have talked about war games a lot recently, there's some stuff on that list that is not war games. In fact, most of the list is not war games, I would say. So stay tuned for that, and I'm hoping to get that out in the next week or two. But yeah, so I just want to give you a sense of my overall experience at Game On Con in Seattle. If you're ever up here in February, you should definitely go check it out, especially if you're into war games. I mean, you could literally, anything that you can imagine that you'd want to play, you could play there. Games from the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, modern stuff, new stuff, unpublished stuff. GMT had a couple of their developers there. The Gallipoli game that's on P500 at GMT right now was there being played. So anyways, that's basically it for this video. Hopefully you're all out there having fun and playing games, and I'll see you in the next one.